at Jenga. This is what I made so I can be good at Jenga.
Huh?
It's not like I'm that bad at Jenga. It's just that I lose sometimes, and I don't like losing. So I need to engineer something that makes me win every time. And that means whatever I make needs to be good enough to do the impossible move. In Jenga, the impossible move is accomplished when you run out of blocks that you can easily take out, and you gotta knock out a block that has the rest of the tower standing on it. If the tower stays standing, you just pulled off the impossible move. These people are either really lucky or they're really good, and since I'm not really good, I'm just going to make something that will make me really good.
Boring! Boring! Boring!
Did you know that there are two types of friction? There's static friction and kinetic friction. If you've ever pushed something heavy like a couch or a car or your mom, then you know that it's really hard to start moving it. But once it's moving, it becomes a lot easier to push. And that's because at its peak, the static friction force is a lot higher than the kinetic friction force. Now we know we need to design something that can apply force so it jumps to that kinetic friction zone. But the most important part is speed. We have to have that block out of there. Here's why. In technical terms, we want to limit the impulse that is transferred to the tower. Impulse, which is force multiplied by time, is equal to the momentum transferred into the tower. And if you think about it, we don't want the momentum of the tower to change at all. We want that to be zero, or else it's going to tip over. So that means that by having a lower friction force, by being in the kinetic region, and also moving it really quickly, which reduces our time, both of these going down means that your impulse is going to go down. And if impulse goes down, that means that there's less momentum transferred into the tower, which is a good thing. Based on these physics, my idea was to use an air cylinder to push out the Jenga blocks. Air cylinders are quick, they extend quickly, they retract quickly, and they can be very powerful. The problem with air cylinders is you need pressure to move them back and forth. The question is, where are we going to get that pressure from? Well, I had a few ideas. The first one is to use an air compressor, which sounds like a good idea, but if you think about it, you're going to have to take an air compressor everywhere you take your Jenga Blaster, so I decided against that. The other idea I had was to use a mini bike pump. These are super cool, and it would be really nice to just not have to take an air compressor everywhere and just be able to pump it up wherever I'm at. But after each shot, I'm gonna have to pump, 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 and I don't know if I want to do that. So I decided against that. The third thing I thought of was using one of these CO2 cartridges that are often used in paintball or airsoft. But the problem with this is that I'm gonna have to carefully design the Jenga Blaster to withstand pressures in excess of 700 PSI, which is no joke. So each of these options have their trade-offs, but I like the idea of using a CO2 cartridge just because they're very convenient, and it'd be so cool to have a CO2 cartridge. And I don't mind a good design challenge, so I'm using a CO2 cartridge. see that? Run that clip back. We did it. That was the impossible move right there. Let's see if we can do another. I'm the Happy Mad Scientist, and I'm about to do the impossible move with my Jenga Blaster I made. Okay, so this thing works great. But how exactly does it work? Well, it's actually very simple. You put your CO2 cartridge right inside that, and as you screw it down, there's a little prick in there which pokes a hole in the very top of the CO2 cartridge, and then the CO2 goes into this needle valve which allows you to meter some air into this little pressure chamber here. And this pressure chamber has a safety relief valve, so any high excess pressure can just get bled off to the atmosphere. It has a pressure gauge on it, so I know how much pressure is in there. And then on the back, it goes up into this valve. This valve is what allows it to open and close. So when you press this little button on the back here, it opens, and when you let go of it, it closes. And then finally, this little air piston here is just an air piston. It comes out when there's pressure on this tube, and it goes back in when there's pressure on this tube. Very simple to operate. It's so much fun to operate too. It goes tuk tuk. Now it's time to try this thing against some real people. And for that, I'm taking it to Open Sauce. Since my friend Jake from the channel Jake Makes was also going out to Open Sauce, we decided to take a road trip together. I made the drive from Virginia down to Mississippi, picked up Jake, and then we both headed out to California. We made some stops along the way to do some sightseeing, camping, and almost died of heat exhaustion hiking the Bright Angel Trail at the Grand Canyon. Then we finally made it to Open Sauce. The best way to describe Open Sauce is a big nerd expo where nerds around the world bring some of their coolest projects to show off. It was a really cool experience, and I got to meet some of my favorite creators. For my exhibit, I brought the Jenga Blaster. I challenged anybody that thought they could beat Jenga Blaster to a game of Jenga. There were so many challengers that Jake and I played a total of 71 games of Jenga against the people of Open Sauce. And out of those games, we won a little over half the time. And that's pretty good considering that for every block they took out, me and Jake took out 2 blocks. So does the Jenga Blaster make me unbeatable? Not quite, but does it give me a huge advantage? Oh, 100% it does. I have more videos like this one that I know you'd love, so check them out. I'll leave you with the one question everybody asks about the Jenga Blaster, which is, does it hurt to get poked by it? Well, I'll let my boy Spencer answer that.
Bro. Get away from me, bro!
Come on out.
No, I don't want, no. It looks like it would hurt. You smashed that Jenga block, dude. You smashed it. That went really far, bro.
Let me,
Bro, that movie, when he uses that thing like scared, like, that, I'm telling you, when I saw that, I kind of got like scared. That movie gave me nightmares, bro. I was imagining that little thing, he just puts it right out, he's like, boom! Alright, fine.
That's how you hurt, Scott.
Alright,
I'll do it.
Alright.
It's not that bad.
This is gonna. Ah! That was what part of the thought was. Alright, fair. Okay, good.